Participation is a privilege, not a right, says Catalyst Game Labs, the current owners of the BattleTech IP, in a statement that provides the inspiration for today's Arch on Butter, on gatekeeping. The original topic as well. A wonderful way to bring back the format, isn't it? So, I've been thinking quite a bit about the topic of gatekeeping recently, which, as we all know by now, is an absolute and intrinsic moral good. But what is gatekeeping? What are the objectives of gatekeeping? Why should we gatekeep so actively? And what, if anything, is the end goal of gatekeeping? And as with so many things so often, you occasionally need a spark from the outside, an additional data point to really get everything rolling in the correct direction. And Catalyst Game Labs so kindly provided it with the announcement that you can see right here. And it certainly echoes a statement made by Games Workshop a few years ago as well, by stating that our game systems are for everyone, even the people that don't like it, one must assume, and thus derogatory comments about things including, but not limited to, so anything and everything Catalyst Games Lab determines to ban you for, race, religion, culture, disability, career, sex, exploitation, or gender identity are not acceptable and will not be excused in these spaces. These spaces being any Catalyst Games Lab spaces and anywhere, apparently, where their intellectual property is being posted, and the use of anything that they don't own is also now banned, of course. And, obviously, participation is a privilege, not a right. Thus, Catalyst Games Labs will and can ban you for literally anything and everything. And hey, this doesn't sound so bad, right? They're just saying, oh, don't be mean to people based on race, religion, culture, right? Who could possibly be opposed to that, right? Well, I can. Because I know what these words actually mean. They mean that we have submitted to a political and cultural point of view that is actively attempting to exclude anyone and everyone with the opposite point of view. Which is why, when a person then asked, is asking Catalyst and everyone else to keep their sexual fetishes and kinks out of the game and fiction considered derogatory? And the answer to that, of course, is yes, as they immediately blocked him thereafter. This does not come as a shock to any of you, I'm sure. Not a single one of you will be surprised by this. The majority of people in the comments were not surprised by this. The majority of the people responding to it were saying that this is exactly what's going to happen, because this is a very predictable response to a message like this, which may use all of the florid words it wishes. We are still 100% aware of the actual intent. And this is one of the largest differences between our gatekeeping and their gatekeeping. And by their, I'm referring to the broader spectrum of the progressive left in essence. See, our gatekeeping is very simple. It can be pithily and accurately summed up as, join the hobby, change the hobby. Simple as. Or to put it a pinch more verbosely, we are not gatekeeping anyone. We are not gatekeeping any individual. No group of people are being targeted here. What is being gatekept is an ideology. It is the political need to enter into things, to subvert them and change them, to further the political and ideological goals of the 21st century at the expense of, in the case of Warhammer 40k, the 41st millennium. And we know this is what they are trying to do because our opposition has told us it is what they are trying to do. Brazenly, openly, and blatantly. Furthermore, our side's gatekeeping is entirely a cultural form of gatekeeping. It is going to the other people who are fans of the thing and saying, hey, if you let this ideology in, it will ruin the thing. I can prove it to you. I can show it to you. I can demonstrate their statements to you. I can explain it in philosophical terms. I can explain it in political terms. I can show you how their ideology is fundamentally based on ruining your thing with their politics. Meanwhile, our opposition's form of gatekeeping, which they utilize constantly, and what was the thing they entered into the settings with to begin with, target exclusively the corporations, and target in turn exclusively individuals. Catalyst Games Lab is not the BattleTech community. It is merely the current IP holder that is existing as a parasitic entity on a community that managed to keep BattleTech alive for decades when it was unsupported. And now that Catalyst Games Lab is coming in and saying, no, we determine what is okay here. Participation in BattleTech, our BattleTech, is a privilege, not a right. And don't you dare abuse our copyright. We own this now. And by the way, if you belong to any political persuasion besides the one we subscribe to, we'll ban you for that too. Which they so helpfully demonstrated within minutes of putting up their announcement. This incidentally also seems like an excellent time to shill a video from Razorfist as well. You might know him from a guest appearance on the ArchCast, or you might know him for simply being an awesome dude who made a video on how to support BattleTech without supporting Catalyst Games Labs. I'll leave a link to that in the comment section down below, so definitely do check it out. This again then is a wonderful example of why gatekeeping is absolutely necessary and an intrinsic moral good, because it doesn't hurt anyone who actually wants to participate in the hobby. No one is excluded by our gatekeeping, in sharp contrast to their gatekeeping. Which also brings up the point that you either gatekeep or you are going to be gatekept. See, for us, the idea of gatekeeping is actually a very new and novel one, on the cutting edge of our current day cultural conflict. It is a tactic that we were taught almost entirely by our opposition, and their usage of gatekeeping as an offensive strategy, rather than our employment of it as near universally a defensive move. This rather stark difference is down to the difference in objectives. From the left wing's perspective, the idea of gatekeeping comes from repressive tolerance. I'm not going to get into the entire idea of repressive tolerance and Herbert Marcuse here, but the essential idea is that the left needs to move into a space and then say, hey, tolerate us, that's your ideology, right? Give us equal privileges. And then, once they have been given equal privileges, they go, actually, your privileges offend us, and I am only going to extend tolerance in turn to those who are me and like me, and I am going to actively withhold tolerance from you and yours. This inevitably leads to a shifting in power towards the outsider, as they will continue to argue for special privileges to be extended to their side, thus enticing more people from their point of view to come into the thing and continue to deny privileges to the opposite party. This was a tactic that was entirely unheard of when it came to our side of things again, because our hobbies tended to be rather niche. The hobbies of geekdom, comics, superheroes, video games, war games, etc. These were not things that were for everyone, because they were designed to appeal specifically to a fairly small niche minority. This gave us many advantages which we were utterly and completely blind to at the time. The first and foremost of them, of course, being, hey, we get to actually have this thing be for us, rather than for the titular everyone. This also, however, meant that we would look at other people and go, okay, but I have this really cool thing. Don't you want to see my really cool thing? And whenever anybody from the outside expressed interest in it, we would be overjoyed. Like, wow, you want to hear about my thing? You're interested in this? Wow, that's amazing. I'm going to tell you all about it. Thus comes the meme of the person who knows something about 40k going, hey, I'm going to talk your head off now for 5 hours about the minutiae of 40k lore. But when the culture began to shift towards geekdom, and it became popular, well, it became a target for those who wished to use its popularity for the furtherance of their own political goals. And many a hobby was devoured by this, usually in order of popularity. And eventually it certainly arrived in 40k, and it certainly arrived in BattleTech as well. And we had next to no defense to it. Because when people came in and said, hey, tolerate us, well, that was indeed our value. Our values were, yeah, sure, why not? Whereas their values, as quite perfectly put by Frank Herbert, is, when I am weaker than you, I ask for freedom because that is according to your principle. When I am stronger than you, I take away your freedom because that is in accordance with my principles. It was a harsh lesson, and one it took quite some time to learn, as for the longest time we simply couldn't believe that there were people out there that were so straight up evil as that. But now we know better, and now we also know what the goal of gatekeeping should be. The goal of gatekeeping should not be to mimic their gatekeeping, not in the goal and the intent. Our opposition's gatekeeping targets individuals via the corporations. It is trying to utilize the power structures to further its own goals. Those are not our principles. Our principle is quite simply that we have a thing we like, and we'd like to be able to keep liking that thing. And the company's only role in this conversation is to continue to make the thing that we like. And if they start making a thing we don't like, then it is within our principles to tell them that they're shit, and to stop purchasing their products until they start making the thing we want them to again. To achieve this, we must aim towards cultural victory, not corporate victory, and not a political victory either, mind you. See, I have seen this critique float around, that, oh, the conservatives, the right-wingers, they're hypocrites. They don't want to keep politics out of 40k or BattleTech or whatever. They only want to push their politics. This, well, it's simple projection, isn't it? Because our opposition knows damn well what their goals are, and they cannot possibly imagine someone not driven by political expedience. I don't care whether the political values of 40k or Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever is conservative. I care about it being what it is. As my latest catchy little catchphrase goes, any change that is made in 40k needs to be to the benefit of the 41st millennium, not the 21st century. That, and that reason alone, is why 40k should move in a right-wing direction, as currently the only identifiable threat to the 41st millennium is progressivism. There is no large-scale push from neo-Nazi forces, all 5 of them probably, to try and make 40k more Nazi-esque. There isn't an armada of skinheads trying to turn Star Wars into a white supremacist utopia. There are, however, a lot of communists trying to affect both settings. This is not a political position, this is a go away, I don't want you bringing your shit into my hobby position. And this will and must transform into an offensive position eventually. Right now, gatekeeping is simply, no, you do not have the correct intentions. You are not here to build up or improve the hobby, you are here to change it, stay out. This will change, and has already in many cases changed over to a, hey company, I see you're producing something we don't want. Well, I am actively going to go out of my way to not support you now. And there are many ways to do so. Many ways indeed. The internet is vast and filled with many things, particularly in the age of 3D printing. As at the end of the day, I don't care about whether or not Games Workshop or Catalyst Game Labs or Disney or whatever do well or poorly. All I care about is that they make a thing I want. And if they cease to make the thing I want, well, I'm going to do everything in my power to change the culture in such a way that they're not going to be able to make anything anymore. They'll either get the message and change their ways, or they'll perish, as Disney seems to be about to. It's not a flawless strategy, and it surely requires a lot of work and a lot of interaction from everyone, you the viewer included, active gatekeeping measures. But it is one that is working, and that is causing the change we want to see. So if you are a fan of BattleTech, I highly recommend that you adopt the pro-gatekeeping position immediately and start kicking BattleTech in the wallet. And considering it is a company that is still relying on Kickstarters to this day, I'd imagine it'd be a fairly easy target. If you're a member of a BattleTech community, start arguing for gatekeeping now. Start using gatekeeping actively. Start explaining gatekeeping to everyone and anyone who will listen. Show them videos like mine. Show them videos like Razorfist's video on how to still play BattleTech without supporting Catalyst. Because the only one who can save your hobby is you. Until next time, I've been Arch. Thank you all very much for listening, and I do hope to see you all again soon. Have a good day.